Hey there, it's Kristen, and I'm sharing with you two magic question spinners. So I thought I would just introduce them to you and give you a couple of ideas for ways to use them. So first of all, there's two spinners. They are different. They're not just different in terms of color. The main difference with them is just the writing is different. So the quadrants are the same, the numbering is the same. The main difference is that you'll notice that the words around this one are different from the words around this one. So this particular one is more based on astrological house arenas. So these words kind of fall into those arenas. This spinner, the words are more conceptual, like goals and fears, things like that. So you can use this spinner when you have more conceptual types of questions. So I'm just going to show you first how to use just one spinner at a time. So if you want to use just one spinner, you can look first at the quadrants, and you can use it just for basic yes/no questions. So you would just spin, you'd ask your yes/no question and see where it comes. So in this case, we can see this quadrant is rephrase. That means you're asking the wrong question, so you just need to rephrase your question. You can see, yes, no, and then also later down here. Later means you're asking the question at the wrong time, so it could be an issue that develops later, or that you need to ask the question at a later time. So once you could do like your yes/no questions, and if it comes up with rephrase your question or ask a different question, basically, you can use the number portion. So I have a list of questions already that I've assigned to each number. So depending on the number that comes up, you can look at that and figure out what question you need to ask. So in this case, the number is 2. The question I have for that is, are we compatible? So usually when the number 2 comes up, there's an issue of cooperation, compatibility. You're trying to find common ground. So this is just a quick way, if you're not sure what to ask, if you want to do like a tarot reading or oracle card reading, this is one way that you can begin with a question. And then another way, if you want to do a reading, you can take one spinner and you can essentially create a spread. So just think about each word, so we're looking at the words now, that it lands on as one prompt or one position in your spread. So this one looks like it's on embracing, which is about what are you embracing. You can think about how many cards you want for your spread. Maybe the second card is about fears. And then you might pull a third card. Looks like it's a very strong emphasis on fears. And then the third card might be on lesson, like what lesson are you learning? So you could look at these separately or all together. What are you embracing that connects to your fears? And then what's the lesson that you're learning from that? So those are just some ways to use an individual spinner, but I also really like to use them together. So that's why I'm giving you two. So here are two ways that I'm going to show you how I like to use them together. Again, we're going to be looking at the words, and we're just going to spin them both at the same time, and we're going to see what words come up. And what I'm doing is I want to kind of combine those words. So I've got self-care and identity. So I might be looking at what kind of self-care do I need to do around me and like my personal identity, or how can I develop maybe some self-care routines that would help to reinforce my personal identity. So what you want to do is just combine the two things that it lands on. So this is family and fears. What fears do I have around my family? And so you can create a question or just something to kind of think about. Sometimes just selecting, seeing where where the spinner lands. Now we've got identity fears, so fears around identity. Sometimes you don't necessarily need to pick cards. You can just look at what it lands on, and that's giving you a lot of information and insight. So the next thing that I like to do is pick an angel number based on the spin. And there's a website, I think it's called Joanne's Sacred Scribes, something like that. I'll put the website link for you. But I like to go to that website for numbers. Like if I have a number and there's like a ton of numbers, I mean, they go up into at least 4-digit numbers. So let's say we have 8 here, and then we have 12 here. So our number would be 812. And so I go to that website and I look up number 812, and I see what the message is. And so, like I said, I really like the website. It's got a lot of good information on it. For example, this would be 9 and 1, so I would have a 91. So if you land on like 12, let's say that, so the highest number we could do would be 1212, 1,212. And so, and they do have that number on that website. So that's what I like about the website. There's a whole bunch of numbers there. So that's another way that I use two, combining two. And I think about that angel number kind of as a summary for a reading, or just a message, just a spirit message for you. So these are some ways that I like to use these magic question spinners, but I'm sure you'll come up with some new ways. And I've also said, if you don't want to add the spinner to it, you can just leave the spinner off and use it for a pendulum reading. So you could just take a pendulum and just hold it over the center, because there is a center circle, and you can just do this kind of the same way, but you would just use it with your pendulum instead. So it could be a pendulum board for you, or a magic question spinner. Enjoy.